I'm Randy Johnston, one of the K2 partners. We provide CPE across the United States and Canada. I also am the CEO of Network Management Group out of Hutchinson, Kansas. We support CPA firms from Boston to Honolulu 24/7. So questions been raised about workflow, where it's used, how it should be used inside firms, and whether a workflow tool is superior to maybe a practice management tool. And in the CPA profession, we only spy about half a dozen products right now that are really workflow tools, and there's a number of practice management products that are claiming that they have workflow, which frankly, I don't believe that is true. In practice management, most of the time, we're simply doing work steps. It's maybe more like a checklist, as opposed to assigning a particular work project to a pool of people, a pool of resources, taking care of the next steps, cycling back when things need to be done, and so forth. Workflow tools can be customized for the firm, so you can start with standard sets of workflows, best practices if you want to think of it that way, and then perhaps apply your own modifications to those workflows. So as we get better understanding of how workflow can benefit the firm, we're going to have to be a little more sophisticated at this. So let's take another consulting effort that's been done by at least 2 organizations that I'm aware of, and there's a few more than that. The whole idea of applying Six Sigma principles to workflows, optimizing the workflows, not doing extra steps. If you're going to control workflow steps, you have to have some sort of a tool to get that done with. You can conceptually get it done on paper, but again, it's not step by step, it's more of a process, and the process is going to change over time. So one last consideration about workflow is that workflows will change over time. In our best efforts, we can't imagine all of the situations that need to be handled in workflows. Normally you want to keep your workflows pretty simple initially, but over time, as you understand more of the process, more of the exception, you can actually go back, look at your workflows, improve those workflows, and take what you've learned from your team members of the best approach and apply it into the workflows so everybody in the firm uses that best approach. We think you want to look at workflow versus practice management to really do this job right. Well, so a question might be raised, why should we consider workflow against maybe some of our other options? Because historically in our firms, some of us have used spreadsheets or marker boards to control workflows, or frankly, control sheets. And these methodologies all have their place, but there's some things that are done in workflow systems that can't be done in any other methodology. And this would be true, let's say, in a workflow system versus a practice management system as well. So, for example, the ability to look at a talent pool and determine that you've got different levels of skill and assign that particular level of skill, or perhaps a client relationship that needs to be maintained or a client relationship that needs to be changed. So if we're going to do scheduling, we're going to do due date monitoring. That might be a couple of places where you can do it so much easier in a workflow product than you can do it in a practice management product. The other thing that generally will happen with workflow tools is firms that use workflow tools will be able to do work more efficiently, they'll be able to communicate to clients more clearly, and in general, the realization rates will go up because there's less overhead of managing the projects. I've been in firms where weekly meetings are held, or occasional meetings are held trying to manage jobs and schedule jobs. We see this in tax departments, we see it more commonly in audit departments. And sometimes applying a workflow tool eliminates all of this meeting head completely. Well, if you start looking at the size of your firm and how many people are sitting in these type of meetings and you eliminate those meetings, how much is that worth? So many of the benefits are unfortunately soft, and it's hard for you to measure them. You might say, well, I can't really get my arms around that. But what I can tell you is whether you use or don't use a workflow tool, you're going to have those overheads in your firm. And what will happen naturally when you start using workflow tools is the overheads will drop, and you might not even be able to tie back, oh, it was when I started using the workflow tool, I no longer have this communication overhead. and all of a sudden that appears as less hours consumed on engagements or projects, and you've got much better visibility and control from a partner or a engagement manager in charge on these different projects.